So, you want to finally break your phone addiction. You don't want this thing that I'm recording on right now to have any power on you. You want to be in control of it. Well, I assure you it's possible. I used to spend more time on Instagram in a day than I spend on my phone for the entire day now. For reference, I spend about 2 hours a day most days on my phone. And that's just an average because I record and I'll listen to podcasts and I'll leave Spotify on and all this extra stuff. So my screen time's around 2 hours a day. I used to spend more than that on Instagram. I do mess up sometimes and I end up spending 3 hours a day or more, but that's not that common now. The thing is, we don't want to completely stop using our phone because our phone is a very powerful tool. It's something that we can use. It's effectively a computer in our pocket. It's literally so useful. We can learn so much from this thing right here. So we don't want to stop using it. We want to turn it into a tool for whatever purpose we want to use it for. So my phone, I basically use it as a learning tool. I use it to learn and to gain knowledge, which I use for these videos, or I use just in general, I use for religion. And that's about it. I mean, I'll listen to music at the gym and I'll record these videos, and that's about it. So a lot of my usage for my phone is just gaining knowledge and learning things. That's the tool that I've turned it into. There are a few tips that I did to stop using my phone so much, but first I want to give you like this biblical analogy. So this is from the Old Testament. If you might have heard the story of Jacob's wives. Jacob was the grandson of Abraham, and his wives were sisters, Leah and Rachel. Basically, Jacob was a slave for their father, Laban, I believe. And Jacob fell in love with Rachel and he wanted to marry her. So Laban said if he works for 7 years, he can have her and marry her. So he did his time, but Laban actually tricked him and gave him his oldest daughter, Leah. So Jacob had to work another 7 years to get Rachel. So he had both wives. And Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah. But still, Rachel bore no children. And Leah kept bearing the children. She'd had 3 children and Rachel had still had 0. And Rachel was understandably quite jealous here. She was livid. She was devastated that Leah kept having these children, even though Jacob didn't love him as much. And she still bore him 0. In this example, Rachel is us when we use social media apps. Leah is the social media apps. When Rachel is seeing Leah's success, she feels bad about herself. She feels bad about not having those things. It's the same as us with social media. When we see others on social media flaunting their materialistic things, we have the desire for those things and we feel bad that we don't have them. It feels like everyone's life is drastically better than ours, when the truth is they're just showing off the best parts of it. It feels like everyone's living these action-packed lives, but really they're only showing the highlights. So the first thing I suggest that you do is to delete your social media apps. And yes, I know it's hard. It feels really hard to give up social media in this age, especially if you're my age or around my age. You're a teenager, early 20s, late teens. It's a hard thing to give up because it feels like it keeps you connected to everyone. But the truth is, the people on there, most of them don't even care about you. They might be fine with you, they might be cool with you, but they wouldn't care if you were gone. They wouldn't care if you left the platform. That's the thing most people don't realize. As soon as you get off social media, you realize who actually cares about you. Because the people that care about you will stick around. They'll still want to hang out with you. When you no longer have these apps on your phone, you no longer feel that desire for materialistic things. You no longer feel like you're worthless. So I think that's a pretty worthwhile trade for deleting some apps. This also counts for games and stuff as well. Just apps you spend a lot of time on. I'm just making the generalization of social media apps because that tends to be the apps we spend the most time on. This also immediately decreases your screen time because you're not going to spend time on those apps if they're not on your phone. Another useful tip is to put your phone into grayscale mode. You might think this is a bit weird. Grayscale mode is the black and white mode on your phone. And you don't realize how addictive the colors that companies use on their apps are. These apps will do anything to keep your attention for as long as possible, including color, and you don't actually realize how much color that they use to try and keep your attention. Because as soon as you turn off on grayscale and you leave it on for like a day and then you turn it off, you're like, whoa, you can see it easily. But you don't realize it until you do it. When you use grayscale, you'll naturally spend less time on your phone because your phone just seems less interesting. It doesn't seem like as fun as it was because it doesn't have those addictive, flashy colors on the screen. You might think I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. You can do this on both Apple and Android devices. Basically, just go into your settings, go into the accessibility settings. I believe it's visual enhancements from there for Samsung, and it's like color and text or something like that for Apple. Basically, just go into the grayscale setting, the color correction setting or whatever, and then just turn on grayscale. You can probably find the more detailed thing if you can't actually figure it out. Just search it up on the internet, how to turn on grayscale for whatever phone you have. But it'll genuinely change how much time you spend on your phone. It'll drastically reduce it. There are options for both phones to have a button that instantly puts it back to color mode. I think Apple is like you can triple click on the side, and on Samsung, on my phone at least, it just gives like a button on the screen. And basically you can just tap it and it just goes to color mode. But I find that if I have these activated, I will just go into color mode and I'll completely lose the effect. So I basically just make it so that I have to go into the settings if I want to turn on color. So that is why I do that. Because yes, it is convenient. But if it's convenient, I'm just going to leave color on all the time. And that's going to ruin the whole purpose. Turn off your notifications, bro. You don't need them. You think you do, but they're not that important. Literally all I have is texts. And I'd be considering turning those off if I had a lot of people in my contacts. Because my contacts are just family, I don't really bother. I just leave it on because most of the time it's just mum or dad. And that's about it. You might be thinking, but what if there's an emergency? There's never an emergency, bro. There's never been an emergency. I mean, there are obviously situations where you're gonna have them on, like if your wife's pregnant at home and you have to rush her to hospital or something. But that's a unique situation. And you know it's coming, so that's different. But just leaving them on, you're literally just sapping away your attention every time someone on your phone or something just does something. Bing. You get a notification. And then all of a sudden your attention is sapped away from whatever you're doing. And you've just wasted half an hour. That's how these notifications work. Why do you need to worry about them? Why do you need to see them straight away? You don't. You don't need to see them straight away. Because as soon as you open the app, you will see the notifications. You don't need to see them straight away. So go into your notifications and your settings and just turn them off for every single app. Maybe leave texts on, but if you've got a lot of people in your contacts, probably don't bother. Maybe leave calls on. Probably leave calls on. But that's about it. You know how your phone like turns on when you pick it up or when you like tap it? You need to turn that off. The reason is when it's like, I think it's like rise to wake. When we pick it up and it turns on instantly, we'll just see notifications and stuff. Or we'll see like just things start to show up. We want to use our phone intentionally as the tool it's meant to be. So if we're picking up our phone, we want to use it for a specific purpose. We don't want to get distracted from what we were meant to do and just end up wasting time. So we need to turn off this rise to wake feature. I believe on Apple it's called rise to wake, and I believe on Samsung it's called lift to wake. I know, big difference, but just search up the how-to videos for turning those off. Also, I believe both phones have a feature called tap to wake. Basically, you just tap the screen and it turns on. You want to turn that off as well, so search up how to turn that off. But yeah, basically, you just want it to be so that you can only turn your phone on by pressing the power button. That's it. It's not much, but it makes a big difference. An extra tip you can do if you're on Android is there are these OSs, basically. There are these apps, these launchers that change the way your phone is laid out. So basically, your apps get put into like a list. And there's no icons, and it's just a list. And it seems like this wouldn't do much, but you'd be surprised. Not having those flashy icons means that when you're using it, when you're going to use an app, you're pretty sure of what the app is going to be. You're only going to go to an app if you search for it. The one that I use is called like minimal productivity launcher or something like that. Just search up like productivity launcher on the Play Store and it'll probably come up. It's got like this stock graph logo thing, and you'll probably see it. That's the one I use because it's free. And basically it just puts them all on a list. These launchers simply just remind you that your phone is a tool. You don't have these apps bombarding your face with just color. And if you got Grayscale on, you won't have that anyway, but the icons are still flashy. Instead, you just have a list. It just reminds you of what your phone is meant to be. It's a tool. You can achieve a similar effect on Apple devices by just removing all the apps from your homepage. But I believe this is better, personally. But you could get a similar effect with an Apple device if you just remove all the apps from your homepage, because then you just have to go over and search. If you do even 2 or 3 of these things, your screen time is likely to reduce quite a bit. And over time, you'll start to use your phone more like the tool that you want it to be. It's an incredibly helpful tool if you use it correctly, if you use it to gain knowledge, if you use it to learn, if you use it to teach. But if you end up using it the wrong way, you end up scrolling, you end up wasting time just like everyone else. So you want your phone to be a tool that you use, not a tool that uses you. So apply these tips and see what happens. It probably won't fix your phone addiction overnight, but these tips will drastically help you to stop. I love you all. Now stop consuming and go create.